When the United States went to war with Iran, they said that it was in order to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Well, now the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Trump is considering stopping the war altogether if Iran agrees to open the Straits of Hormuz. That is a very different definition of victory from the one the United States received at the beginning. And it's certainly worth remembering that when this war started, the Straits of Hormuz were open. So there's actually nothing gained from this except for a return to the status quo on this one thing. So the American people and the world are being lied to over what victory means and why this war was waged. But even that, what Trump is now declaring as a possibility for ending the war doesn't seem like it's going to satisfy the Iranians. Iran has released its terms for ending the war, and they look very different from the ones that the United States could possibly accept and what is being talked about in Washington, D.C. They want the Americans first to pay compensation. That's the first term of the six. Two, they want the United States to lift sanctions on Iran. That's the second term. The third is to release frozen assets. The fourth is to end the blockade. The fifth is to stop attacking Iranian allies. And that would include not only Hezbollah and not only the Houthis, but also the militias in Iraq that are attacking the United States. And we're going to be talking about Iraq quite a bit today. And also, finally, withdrawing all U.S. forces from the region. Six demands. That last one in particular absolutely cannot be met without admitting a colossal strategic defeat. These are really non starters, but they also show that Iran is negotiating from what it believes is a considerable position of strength. America's own commanders, like Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, Dan Kane, is saying that there's nowhere to escalate to, that the ability of the United States to achieve its goals using military force has reached its apex. There's nowhere left to go. And then there's other stories that merge into this one. On the 30th of September, the last American soldier is going to leave Iraq. It's going to be the first time since 2003 that there will be none. This, it's worth noting, is happening while American forces in Iraq have been under fire by either Iran itself or pro Iranian militias, probably a combination of the two. Meanwhile, in Mecca, three of the biggest Muslim powers in the world signed a mutual defense pact: Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan. And there's a lot of talk right now about a fourth important country, Egypt, joining into the pact, making it the most important Sunni Islamic defense military pact possibly in history. Now, these all sound like they're separate stories, but they're not. They're all part of the same story. They're all part of the same story of the deep erosion of American power in the Middle East. Everyone's noticing that American power is contracting, and everyone is trying to figure out what to do about it. We're going to talk about what Trump is being offered, what Iran might actually accept, what kind of order is going to replace American order in the Middle East. We're going to tie all those strands together. Join us. Let's get started. So let's start with what Trump is telling his aides, because that's in the headlines and there's a reason for that. It's important. Trump, according to the Wall Street Journal, told his aides he's ready to declare victory and get out of this war if Tehran fully reopens the Strait of Hormuz. He's been floating that he's willing to do that even if there's absolutely no shred of a nuclear deal at all. Before, he was trying to get a full nuclear deal. After that, he was trying to get some semblance of a nuclear deal to cover himself. And now he's willing to walk away without a nuclear deal at all. That really shows you how much the negotiating position of the United States has eroded over this time. Now, you've probably seen this described in the newspapers as Trump quietly admitting defeat. That's not exactly accurate. Trump is still willing to fight for some of the goals that he is fighting this war for. including the freezing of assets, Straits of Hormuz, etc. He also hasn't decided officially 100% to give up on the nuclear plan. And historically, whenever Trump has been willing to make these kind of concessions, Israel has pushed back on it. Its supporters in Congress has pushed back on it, and some of the think tanks that are close to him, like the FDD and Pete Hegseth, his Secretary of Defense, have pushed back on it. So we're not there yet. But the shift is remarkable. There's no point in underplaying the story, and there's no point in overplaying it. There's a lot happening here. The stated objective of the campaign launch on the 28th of February of this year was to destroy the Iranian nuclear program. That was also the stated objective of the 12-day war last year, which bombed several of the nuclear programs. That's been the obsession of particularly Benjamin Netanyahu, but also the United States and Donald Trump since they took over. And part of the reason that the JCPOA, the agreement between the United States and Iran over their nuclear program, was canceled by Trump. The nuclear program wasn't some side issue here. This was the issue, the main issue the whole war was addressing. If this war ends without that, it's very likely Iran will take that as a green light to build nuclear weapons. And considering the success that they've had in this war, Russia and China may be all too happy to step into that vacuum and give them the nuclear arms that they need without all that much work. And the United States will be scared, possibly, and deterred from attacking. That, of course, leaves Israel. The ship's moving again, opening of the Hormuz Straits is just returning to the status quo. Is it really possible that Trump would accept something that small? And also, it's becoming increasingly clear Iran has no intention of doing that. They're talking with Oman about various ways of limiting the shipping going through the Straits of Hormuz in a way that's beneficial to Iranian regional hegemony and to its treasury to make some money off it. And so, why would the United States even agree to any of that to begin with? The first reason, of course, is what Hormuz does to the global economy. And the second reason is what these months of war have done to America's military arsenal. We'll come to the arsenal. We'll start with the water. Okay, so the basics. Strait of Hormuz, what is it? It's a narrow channel between Iran and Oman, linking the Persian Gulf and the Arabian Sea. It's only 21 miles across at the tightest point, and that is the area Iran focuses on the most to try to limit the shipping going through. About one-fifth of the world's oil consumption went through it before the war. One-fifth of the liquefied gas in the world went through it as well, and it keeps some of the most important countries in the region afloat economically. Without it, they have to supply themselves by land. Now, there are ways to bypass it. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have pipelines that go around it, and people are planning more pipelines, especially now with this crisis, but it's nowhere near enough to replace it. Right now, there's no way past it. We still rely on fossil fuels, and we still rely on fossil fuels that go through the straits. And that has meant that Iran has a stranglehold on the global economy. As much as Trump has tried to deny it, as much as Trump has sometimes successfully managed to lower the price of energy, that remains an acute problem for him. Tehran doesn't need to defeat the US Navy. And this is where the Americans were wrong. The Americans thought that the US Navy could keep this open. But what they didn't realize is that Iran doesn't need full control, and Iran doesn't need to be able to destroy everything that goes through. It needs to be able to frighten everyone going through so much that they don't bother or that they can't buy insurance to do so. They did that with missiles, drones, mines, compulsory routes, vessel inspections, toll demands. Each obstacle made it more and more difficult to go through, raising insurance premiums, raising the risk to life of the sailors. A lot of them have been stuck there for months without supplies. It makes the shipping companies wait, reroute, stop shipping. Ultimately, it's much easier to stop global shipping than anyone thought. And that pressure doesn't stay in the Gulf. The prices rise for everyone. It reaches motorists around the world. It reaches importers. You have oil and fossil fuels in every kind of product that you buy, including plastic and all that. Uh, and the weakest economies, so not the United States and not Western Europe, although they're having price raises as well, suffer the most because they don't have the margins to absorb the rise of the cost there. So for oil importing African countries, this has been an absolute disaster. The meals that are already difficult to obtain in some places in Africa where there's hunger become more expensive. There's queues for petrol. There's rationing of electricity. And this is happening all over the world. And that has an impact on the entire global economy over time. Now, that's why the straits are the most important indicator for Trump. You can talk about a distant war and show maps and show explosions as much as you want, but if Americans are feeling the pain at the pump, especially with the midterms coming up, and there's no guarantee that any of this ends before the general elections in 2 years either, it becomes a massive political problem, one that Trump simply cannot solve. And Iran has understood that and seen that time works against Trump, time works against the United States, time also works against Israel. Now, some of you may be asking, wait a minute, didn't we have a ceasefire? Didn't we have a memorandum of understanding? Shouldn't all this have been done? So, yes, in June, a memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran was reached. And what that had is it had terms for opening the Straits of Hormuz, which, as we know, has happened very partially. And that pushed away the nuclear negotiations for a later date. The idea was Iran performs and then the benefits follow. But the agreement really didn't stop the conflict. It postponed it for a while and then it unraveled. There's several reasons for that, but both both the United States and Iran are behaving very erratically. Um, the United States is being put back and forth. A lot of it is pressure from Israel on the one side and from some of the Gulf states on the other. Meanwhile, Iran is being cut between different factions. There's the IRGC that wants a more militant response. There's the president and the speaker of parliament who want negotiation. And the high cleric doesn't want uh, to put his finger on either side. He's allowing it to play out. Some people say that he's in a coma or even dead. So both sides acted erratically. Both sides broke the ceasefire, the United States in particular. And there's been attacks. Commercial traffic has stopped. Each side accused the other of breaking the ceasefire. And that's where we are now. Iran has come to an agreement with Oman on where ships need to go through, how much they will be charged. All of that has been done possibly with the tacit approval of the United States, but not the official approval of the United States. Deal needs to be done in order to make that map come to life. That map, it should be noted, favors Iran heavily. So if that happens and Iran gets to control the flow of traffic through the Straits of Hormuz, it's a massive victory for them. Now, let's go back to those Iranian demands. So Iran has six demands. It's best understood as sort of three different arguments that Iran is making on its supremacy and why it's winning. The fifth is an argument about money. They believe the United States has unjustly harmed it, not just in this war, but over years of sanctions and freezing of assets. And now they believe that they have the power and the strength to demand their money back, and they want to be compensated for the damage that was done to them so that they can rebuild their country. The second argument is about force. It wants to end the threat of American strikes on its territory, and it wants to be able to project its own force in the Persian Gulf. And it wants the Iranian aligned forces in Lebanon, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and its militias, and so on and so forth, to be able to project power at the expense of the United States and its allies. And the third is about control. Iran wants to take the power that it has now and translated into control over the Straits of Hormuz. And it's planning to do that. And if you put all these terms together, what you see very clearly is that this isn't about the Straits of Hormuz. It's not about nuclear weapons. It's about power. Iran wants to be the primary power in the Persian Gulf. In order to do that, it needs to remove the United States, and it believes that it has the upper hand enough to do that. And that's one of the reasons that Trump is willing to give up on the nuclear power, because he sees that what's starting to happen is that there's a battle over hegemony in the entire region, and the United States is losing it. And so he's willing to give up on some of his main goals in order to stop that from occurring at a time when the United States is on the back foot. If the United States agreed to these Iranian terms, it would lose all of its power in the entire region permanently.